I would have said. Well, I think it should have been helping.
Josh.
Yes.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Landmarks Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5. We will be getting started soon, but we're just going to give a couple minutes for a few more people to trickle in. So we'll get started in just a few minutes. Thank you everyone for being on time. Those in the room and also online.
And how about a round of applause for our new chair?
Thank you very much. And part of this is also driven by the fact that I would like to, hopefully he will show up soon. Mark Hirschberg has graciously assumed the role of vice chair of the committee. So when he gets in, we'll give him a round of applause as well. Thank you, everyone.
So we differ with that one. And so we could come on the car and having this garage and it's expensive. Their tickets, it's like, oh, you know, we walk out, place a little bit. Behind that.
That's perfect. Thank you.
That's so many houses. What's that on one?
Can I ask a question before we start?
Sure.
Have you ever heard of this restaurant?
Some shit.
No. Ketchup.
Have you heard of this restaurant?
I've heard of ketchup.
I've seen it.
So I was walking on Lexington Avenue today, and there's these beautiful gals at a big new store open up, it says ketchup on the top, and they handed me this on Lexington Avenue.
You know that.
And I wasn't hungry, it was at 11 o'clock, just finished with my tour. And I vowed I'm gonna go back before the meeting tonight and get it. And I went, I couldn't find it. There's no address on here. Can you imagine? No address, and I thought I was on Lexington, like between 37th and 39th.
Yeah, it is on Lexington, right around there. It's on the east side of the street.
on the east
I've
side
never
of the street?
been, but
But you said, and there's women today handing out these things today?
I don't know. I wasn't around there. I mean, I live a little south of there.
They have this newfangled thing, Mike, called Google.
You try, you try, and you'll see.
Barbara, have you been?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
No,
I'm
it's
ready.
just-
All right, I think we're gonna get started now. We've given everyone time. We've had our catch-up anecdote, so. Welcome, everyone. So, as I said, this is the Landmarks Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5. My name is Brad Sherburne. I am the chair of the Landmarks Committee. And so tonight we have two items on our agenda. The first one is 175th Avenue, or you might know it as the Flatiron Building, which is coming before us for window replacements on floors 2 through 22 and a request related to ZR 1520 for a continuing maintenance program for residential conversion of those same floors. And then subsequent, we have 647 Fifth Avenue, which is coming for us for an exterior renovation to install new signage, window awnings, and lighting. So many of you may know this, but in case you don't, the procedure for tonight will be sort of the following. First, each applicant will be allowed to give a full uninterrupted presentation. Following the presentation, we will move to questions from the committee. The committee will ask questions of the applicant. Once that is done, I will open it up to the floor for members of the public to do the same. They will have the opportunity to ask questions. And then following that, we will move to business session. During business session, only members of the committee are allowed to discuss the matter. We will have our discussion, and then following that discussion, we will have a motion to take a vote for any number of actions. And then that will be taken to a vote. Once a motion passes, that will be put into a resolution, which is then presented to the full board. The full board will take a vote at our next full board meeting, which is April 11th. And then that vote will become the official position of Manhattan Community Board 5, which will be forwarded on to the relevant agencies. You applicants are welcome to attend the full board meeting, but are not required to do so. So with that, I would first like to welcome Mark Hirschberg, our new vice chair. Round of applause, everyone. And then second, turn the floor over to the Flatiron team. And Susan.
Thanks.
So you should be able to share your screen, present, however you'd like to run this.
Up here is great. Up here is
Yeah,
great.
you're
It's
good.
here because I don't hear well.
Thank you very much. My name is Scott Solish. I oversee development for the Brodsky Organization. I'm here tonight representing the partners that are the owners of the Flatiron Building. The Brodsky Organization was the most recent partner to enter the project. Some of you may have followed the auction in the summer and fall. So we joined with some of the existing partners, and we're overseeing the conversion of the Flatiron Building from what it's currently in. It's a vacant commercial building to residential purposes. So we're very excited to be here today. I'm joined by our architects from Beyer Blinder Bell, Richard and Carlos, who will walk you through the presentation. There's a lot of slides, but hopefully it goes relatively quickly. Our goal for this is an extremely light touch, making the changes that are necessary to convert the building from its current condition, which is in unfortunately relatively rough shape on the inside, to making some of the necessary improvements to convert it from what was an old office building to a modern residential building. But we'll walk you through that. We're also joined by Valerie Campbell from Kramer Levin, who's our land use attorney, and has been working with us for the last several months and on many other projects. So I won't take up too much of your time. I'll leave a bunch of cards. We're here to answer any questions you may have. We're very excited about this. Obviously, it's a beautiful building. We've taken over the rest of the local 11 work, which we're hopeful will finish sometime in the next 3 months. Our goal is to get that scaffolding down as quickly as possible, and so everyone can enjoy the building as we have historically. We're still, a question that has come up is, when can they come down? And I just want to kind of get in front of that. We're working through that with DOB based upon our conversion plans. And again, once that work finishes, except for the window replacement, which we'll talk about, all the work will be on the inside and the roof. But we'll just follow DOB's guidelines and make sure we protect the building during the construction. But again, I'll leave a bunch of cards. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you for having us tonight. We're very excited about being involved with this amazing building in this community. And so thank you again. And I'll turn it over to Richard and Carlos, and they'll walk us through the Valerie.
What was the name? What was the name? Corral? G-U-R-A-L?
Brodsky.
Brodsky.
Yeah.
I thought you said Corral.
Thank you, Valerie.
So good evening, Valerie Campbell from Kramer Levin. So Scott sort of gave you the purpose of the project. I think you all know where the Flatiron Building is. It's the triangular block bounded by East 22nd Street to the south, Broadway to the east, Fifth Avenue to the west, and the tip of the triangle fronts on East 23rd Street. It's an individual landmark and located in the Ladies Mile Historic District. It was constructed in 1902, one of the earliest steel frame skyscrapers in New York City, and designed by the Chicago architect Daniel Bruno. So as you can see, all of the facades are ornamented with all sorts of terracotta detail, arcuate windows, cornices, friezes, and lion's heads. Yes. The building has been vacant for several years, and there will be, as part of the conversion, floors 2 through 21 and a portion of the ground floor for the lobby will be converted to residential units. The building is approximately 300 feet tall. It's not going to be enlarged, and contains approximately 83,000 square feet, which is a FAR of about 21.2. And right now, all of the interior has been vetted. So there are 3 applications that are before you tonight. There's the window replacement above the ground floor, which was facilitate the residential conversion. These windows require a commission level approval, because the operation of the lower sash is slightly different. It'll be a tilt and turn, which Carlos will describe. And so that means that it has to go to the commission, but this is the kind of window that commission has approved frequently. We also have a new application that staff just told us was going to be coming to the commission, which we'll show you. And that's modifications to previous landmarks approvals for storefronts and rooftop mechanical work. And these are all changes that are associated with the residential conversion. And then finally, the residential conversion requires the zoning authorization pursuant to ZR section 1520B. And that is, we can convert in this district 50% of the building to residential as of right. But in order to convert more than 50%, we can get an authorization from city planning, which is available to landmark buildings. And that authorization requires landmarks to issue a report to the city planning commission saying that the building will be subject to a continuing maintenance report. Very similar to the 74-711 continuing maintenance reports that this committee has seen are Broadway reports, our East Midtown reports. So that's the third landmarks application. So with that introduction, I will turn it over to Carlos, who will go through the windows.
Thank you, Valerie. Can I do it from here?
Well, maybe you stand here and flip through as you go.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, that way it lasts.
Because it doesn't, that new maintenance, portion, because LBC has to approve on that before it goes to city. Maybe they'll explain, but.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Carlos Cardoso with Barb Linda Bell Architects. My partner Richard Metzke is here as well. And I'm going to take you through the window replacement for the Flatiron. Part of the reason we're here, as Valerie stated, is because the windows originally were double hung. Because of energy components and energy efficiency and operability, we're going to go to a what's called a tilt and turn, which will be the bottom sash will be operable, but it will mimic the look of a double hung, which was what was done on the Woolworth building as well. And we spent quite a bit of time to get that to look what was originally. The windows that are there now were already replacements. They were replaced in 2004. So they're already 20 years old. They're really at the end of their lifespan. But they were traditionally just aluminum double hung windows that was replaced there. What's there. So to take you through it, and obviously the facade as you see now with the scaffold, the east and the west facade, we had to put a methodology of how we would organize all the window replacements. There's over 856 window openings. There's more than windows than even that. And the way we went about that was we basically did a mapping of the building so we actually can see the different window types, and within each type, there's a different size. So that we understand the replacement of every single window from 2 to 21 that's replaced. So you see here the various types. You will see then the south facade and the north facade have different window types as well, which is diagrammed here. So this kind of sets the tone for how to organize the window replacement component. But then let's talk about the different types. And each type
of windows diagrammed here. On the top left is really the window as it was originally in 1902. When I say originally, it was a wood window, it was a double hung window. And then you're going to see in more details the dimensions that we were able to get, which the 2004 windows pretty much replicated the same sizes and the same sash sizes, the aluminum that's in the middle. One important thing to note is the trim that's around the window on the exterior is still the original trim. And that's going to be kept and restored. So just the window, you could actually see a pretty ugly clock line. Behind that is the window that's going to be pulled and then replaced with the new one. And that's typical throughout the whole building, except for the north side, the north windows, which I'll get to. And the replacement, as you see here, just to talk about that on the top right, the dimensions are staying the same. We're working with manufacturers right now to make sure that they can accomplish that. And then mock-ups will be created of that as well. The window type A that's curved is on the north of the building, as you all know. Those windows are actually not going to be replaced, they're going to be restored. So it's going to be authentic to what was there originally. This is window type B, at the very top with the curved windows. What's actually interesting, you see the middle detail. The replacement was actually the arch. They put a square window instead of arching the window. As originally, we're going to take it back to what was original, with the sashes and everything replicated as well. And basically, I'm just going to go a little, stop me if you need to. It basically follows the same details for all the various windows, as you'll see here. The one area I want to, the circular window, which is on the Fifth Avenue side, is going to actually, we're going to restore the trim on the outside and just actually replace the glazing with an insulated glass unit. And then on the north side of the building, which is the very top of the 20th floor, there's these storefronts, as they call them, as they're inset in. You'll notice that in 2004, they replaced the glass as well. They kept all the framing because you could see the insulated glass unit and the separator that was there. That's also going to be kept as is. The framing is going to be restored. As of now, we're going to keep the glazing. It meets the energy code. If they're not operating, it would just change the glazing in kind. And then the details. So really gets to the heart of how the replacement is working. On the left, the original component details, what was replaced in 2004, and what we're trying to mimic now in 2024 now, but with the same dimensions from an elevation. Notice it says fixed. And then the question is, this is going to be a tilt and turn, which really tilts in for air and then opens completely inboard to clean. The reason that really works nicely and why probably they did it at the Woolworth building as well is, here's a detail of the double hung. When you do that, we can actually replicate. So from the outside, it's going to have the appearance of a double hung, but the lower sash is the one that actually operates versus the fixed one as we have it. And it will be an aluminum window as well. These are the details of the jam that we're working through right now. It's these components here that are the original trim. The trim that's there now used to hold the original sash of the window with the counterweight, that's staying, and then the windows tucking behind that as well. This basically goes into details of all the openings, all the sizes of all the windows right now. And then something that I wanted to show everyone, Jablonski had done back in 2004, a pretty extensive investigation of the color. And that was approved by LPC. So we have this document. The manufacturers that we're doing the mock-up are going to replicate that color. So it would be the color that was originally there and what was originally approved by LPC. And that ends the window replacement. So I believe, Richard, you're going to take through. You stay up there. You can flip through back there. Let me do it back there. So nobody's.
You'll do it all talk.
Hold on, let me just plug this in so this doesn't. And put the right one on. Good.
right, so, LPC staff asked if we would sort of run through with you some of the adjustments that we need to make to the master plan, storefront master plan, rooftop. I was here 4 years ago, September 29th, 2020. Weren't here physically, we were all virtual at that time.
Mhm.
And then we got approval that night for the master plan for alterations to the 21st floor and to the rooftop. And then it got full board approval on, let's see if I check my timeline, October 8th, 2020. It was unanimous back then. We went to landmarks the following 2 weeks later, October 20th, and we received approval for the rooftop and the 21st floor modifications. Then we went back a second time to a public meeting on April 13th, 2021, where we got approval for storefront master plan. One additional approval we needed was from staff. There's a couple of commissioners that asked us to put back some of the decorative grill work that was in the transom above main lobby door. We did that, and then on May 16th or so, 2021, that was approved by staff. So because of the conversion now of the building from commercial to residential, we need to make some adjustments to the storefront master plan and to the rooftop, right? But they're all within the sort of same kit of parts and strategy that we originally employed when we did the master plan back in 2020. So if we go to the next one, we all know where it is. Revised ground floor. So there's adjustments that are being made to the ground floor to accommodate new residential lobby. The lobby will actually be on the corner of 5th and 22nd Street. Bottom is 5th Avenue, 22nd Street, Broadway. Main lobby and entry is going to be back on the corner of 5th and 22nd Street. The adjustments we want to make on the ground floor are to the windows that are along 22nd Street, to the service bay, existing service bay, which is storefront number 19, to one of the doors that went into the original lobby, and the restoration of the revolving door on the corner. So we go to the next one. These are just shots of the existing condition, right? 5th Avenue, 22nd Street, and Broadway. Next one. Existing condition along 5th Avenue. What was approved by LPC back in 2021 with new storefront master plan. And the change that will be made now is basically for the restoration of that corner revolving wood door. Because I don't think the board saw this back in 2020, but that was, we got approval for basically the main entry doors and the transom. The transom at that time did not have the decorative grill work. We were asked to put the decorative grill work back in as per the original building, and we did that. So that was what was finally approved by landmarks in terms of the main 5th Avenue entry doors. 22nd Street. The current storefronts are flat. All the other storefronts, basically on Broadway and on 5th Avenue, are bay storefronts. We want to go back and put the bays back in as they originally were on 22nd Street, right? And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 bays right here. So what we're going to do is just go back to how they originally were, with the exception of storefront 13, which needs a double set of doors because it's a service entry. It's also the egress from the building. Right, so we need to put a double set of doors into storefront 13. Next one. Now, top is the existing, you can see the 4 storefronts, right? What was approved by LPC, which is basically the same storefronts remaining, with the addition of some louvers for actually a generator, which was going to be located in the basement and still is going to be located in the basement and not on the rooftop. So they needed intake and exhaust for those louvers. They were on 22nd Street. What we want to do now at the bottom, right, is put back the bays, right, and actually reduce the amount of louvers. We don't need as many louvers. We only need 2 of them, which will be in the center 2 bays.
Right, now, we had approval from Landmarks as part of our kit of parts for the introduction of a double set of doors on both Fifth Avenue and on Broadway. So there were two storefronts, storefront 17 and storefront 8, in which we wanted the flexibility at that time to put in a double set of doors. And we worked with staff and with commission approval, right, to basically have a bay window with a double set of doors. So we basically want to use that kit of parts for that storefront on 22nd Street. So you can see basically 3 of the storefronts will be typical of the bay sort of storefront, single door. And that one storefront would have double set of doors with a bay window, which is just sort of part of the master plan kit of parts. The corner revolving door will restore. And on Broadway, top is the existing, middle is what was approved. Basically a change to the entry, right? And to also what is the service entry. And the changes, adjustments we're making now is we had approval for a revolving door. What we want to do is put in a double set of doors, exactly the same as what's on Fifth Avenue. Take the same door and basically put it on Broadway. What we're going to do is remove the service entry and put back the door on its hinge on the storefront. So next drawing just shows existing condition on that service storefront, the 2 service stores, and basically just we'll restore and replace the door that used to be in the storefront there. That's just a picture of the existing condition. And this just shows a change on Broadway. There was the approval for the revolving door. We want to replace it because now it's an entry to retail, right, with a double set of doors. On the roof, same strategy as we originally employed. We have more equipment. We also have a bulkhead because now that it's residential, right, there's additional mechanical equipment that was required. We also have stairs that need to come up, do the scissor stairs and on to the roof. But the strategy is exactly the same as what we had originally done. So this is a roof plan. It shows the location of the mechanical equipment, right? The elevator bulkheads, the stair that's coming up, the cooling towers, the air recovery units. The red line, dash line represents the envelope where we don't want equipment, right? Because it would have visibility to the park. So same strategy, we remove all the equipment, all right, and bulkheads behind that red line so that mechanical equipment was minimally, if not invisible, from all the iconic views of from the park and from Fifth Avenue looking south. So top drawing represents what is there today, the bulkhead. Below it, it represents what was approved by Landmarks back in 2020. And the bigger drawing shows the new equipment and bulkheads on the roof. You can see most of it shifted to the southwest. So just a blow up of the cooling towers, the bulkheads, the elevator bulkhead, the elevator overrides, right? And the screening around some of the equipment. The elevation along Fifth Avenue of the mechanical equipment. Oh, I should note, one of the things that we did originally, which we got approval for, was the on the original building, the height of the bulkheads that currently exist in the equipment is about 9'3". We kept all the equipment below 9'3", and that's still true. All the bulkheads and all the equipment would be at no greater than about 9'3". And just the rooftop elevation from Broadway. And just a blow up of the screen. So we're working with staff in terms of the detailing of the screen and the screen material and the color of the screen that wraps around the cooling tower. And then the sightline studies. Now, the way I set it up, the first one is existing condition. right? What's there right now. The red dot shows where the photo is taken from in the park. The middle photograph shows what was approved by LPC back in October 20th. So shot in the park and just a blow up just blew up that area. And what we're proposing today. So, right, basically, right now in the park, actually the little piece that you see up there, you didn't see anything back in 2020, and the same is true now. You don't see any of the equipment from the park. Next one. So here's a little bit further north in the park, right, as we head towards 24th or so street, looking back, you're looking south, right? Again, middle one was what was approved, and again, you don't see the equipment on the roof, right? So none of the iconic views from the park, you see any equipment, right? And that was the strategy we employed in 2020 and the one we're employing now. So next one is basically now we're on Madison Avenue, right? Right by Madison, 23rd, 24th Street, existing, what was approved and today. And we took one all the way at the corner of the park back there, and you can see that it does pop up. Some of the equipment that's currently there, right? Basically just a little bit was visible, and you can see some of it just pop up just above the roof line there. So it's minimally visible all the way back on the corner. And we did a shot back on Fifth Avenue looking south. Right, here's the building, right there. 25th, so 23rd, 24th, 25th Street. You don't see anything there. Again, just on even further back on Fifth Avenue, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. Looking at the building, and you don't see any of the equipment. So if you go now to 23rd, right, and you're looking east, right, again, there was a little piece that popped up there, but you don't see, you see a little bit appearing right over there. And again, just coming a little bit closer on 23rd, right, and start to see, it was the equipment was there, and you start to see it right over there. And then when you're up against the building, you don't see anything. Then we did a shot from 22nd Street looking east. And yeah, you barely see, minimally visible up there. And right up when you're up against the building, you don't see anything. Take a shot looking north from Fifth Avenue, 22nd, 21, 20th Street. Again, you start to see a little piece right up there. And from Broadway looking back down, a little piece will appear right there. On Broadway, as you get closer, you see a little piece that starts to pop up on the roof right there, the cooling tower. Right, when you look down 22nd Street and you're looking west, right, there was always a piece of equipment that was popping up, and you see a little bit of it there. And again, just looking west, you don't see it in these views at all. And when you're close to the corner, there's nothing there. And then the final view is from 23rd Street looking west, and you don't see any equipment. So, the whole strategy was to eliminate any sort of visibility of the equipment from all those iconic views of the park, right? And from Fifth Avenue, move all the equipment, to the west, southwest. There's a little bit of visibility from some of those views, from halfway down the block. So that's where we are, and we've been working with staff on this thing, and it's just an update in terms of the progress that we're making in terms of some of these adjustments.
Okay, the final application is the report from Landmarks on the existing conditions report and the continuing maintenance plan, and that's actually a relatively large document. So we just have a few slides here. But for the past 5 years, the building has been undergoing a comprehensive restoration program. And as you can see, it is just full, the facade is completely covered in terracotta. And as I think a lot of this committee probably knows from other applications, terracotta restoration is very time consuming because damaged pieces have to be removed, they have to be molded, refabricated, and there are only, I think, 2 companies in the country that do this work. So there's a lot of lead time. And once you get the pieces back, they have to be reattached with corrosion resistant anchors. And in addition to the new pieces, there are existing pieces that have to be re-anchored and repaired or sometimes reglazed. The good news is that all of this work is supposed to be complete by the end of the year. BBB did an inspection of the facade. And you'll see some photos indicating work. Oh, here's the entire facade. They indicated some work that still needs to be done, so that will be included in the work that'll be done by the end of the year. When the work is complete, BBB will re-inspect and issue an updated conditions report. And at that time, the building should be in sound first-class condition, which is what Landmarks really requires for these types of applications. And that will become the basis for the continuing maintenance plan, which requires that a preservation architect inspect the building every 7 years, issue a report to Landmarks, and the owner commits to doing any repair work that is indicated as necessary in that report. The continuing maintenance plan is set forth in a restricted declaration, which is recorded and it's binding on future owners of the property. So, as I said before, this is required in this case in order to convert more than 50% of the building to residential use. And here you can just see a ground floor plan. There will still be 2 retail facilities or 2 retail establishments on the ground floor. But this area here is the residential entrance and lobby. And then on the upper floors, you'll see the residential units. And they don't think that they can be more than 2, possibly 3 units per floor, just because of the way the layout works at that floor. So that's really the continuing maintenance plan. You see some upper floors, the top unit is a penthouse unit. So that's the 3rd application that Landmarks is looking at. So we're happy to answer any questions about the work.
All right, thank you very much. So now we will open up to questions from the committee. Starting with you, Zool.
I'm gonna have comments, but just a couple of questions. So other than the storefront tenants, are we talking about 100% residential there?
Yes,
Okay, and,
except for the ground floor.
right. And then, so roughly, I don't know if you guys said, so the estimated date, because everybody asks us if the scaffolding to come down, like January next year, we can.
Well, again, there's the local law 11 work and then there's the renovation work, and the renovation work, the local law 11 work obviously requires scaffolding, and the renovation work, we're under DOB's jurisdiction, so we don't know what they will require for sidewalk bridging. And, you know, we obviously want to protect the facade after it's done, during the renovation.
So can't really answer that yet.
Yeah, we're still working through it.
And then last one, I don't know if you can answer this either, and I don't think you have to, but any idea of what kind of retail is coming into the ground floor?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
T-Mobile is still there.
Yeah.
And.
Do they
we don't-
have a long-term?
They do have a long.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the end of my questions.
Any other questions? I'm sure there must be some. Suzanne?
Can you go back to,
Louder, Suzanne, please.
I'm sorry?
Louder, please.
Yes, I'm sorry. I can get very loud.
But you probably don't have to.
I probably don't have to. Can you, go back to the, maybe I just somehow went away. This is a lot of information and great information and well done you, but, with regards to the changing out of the door for the retail space, can you go back to that I was a little bit confused because you said, well, we're changing this out to match it on, I guess, the Fifth Avenue side, and we have to do it because it's retail. And is the door that exists, is that an original to the building?
No, doors are not original. The reason why there was a double, the proposal in 2020 was for a double set of swing doors, right, on Fifth Avenue, because it had the vestibule. But you couldn't put a vestibule on Broadway side because there wasn't any room to project too far into the lobby at that time, right? So that's why we got approval for a revolving door on Broadway, right? We no longer need that revolving door, right? And so because most of the retail will be along Broadway, right? We want to change out that approval that we had for the revolving door and use the same door, that kit apart that we had for Fifth Avenue. We'll just use exactly the same design on Broadway.
And those designs are more integral to the original of the building.
Yes, the original building did not have revolving doors. It was all, actually it was 4 swing doors, originally, very small, which is, because of ADA and because of exiting requirements, right? The doors have to be bigger.
Okay, thank you.
So the revolving door that is going to be the entrance for the residential lobby, so that isn't an existing, because you said you were gonna restore that door, so that, but that isn't an original door.
It's not an original, I don't believe it's the original door. It's a wood door,
Okay,
right? The original design was a glass storefront, right? That
Ah.
revolving door went in probably in 1910 or so.
oh, so it's still
It's-
very early.
It's very,
Yeah.
very old. Now, is the one there, the original one that went in?
Yeah,
I don't think so, right?
but there was a revolving door in
Yeah,
that
there was.
location.
Oh, yeah, there was a revolving door. There's still a revolving door there, right? But when you look at the photographs from 1902, 1903, right, it was
Yeah,
a storefront.
right.
So it changed out fairly quickly. And given the door that's there, which is wood, it's actually very nice, we'll restore it.
And what kind of ADA entrance do you have into the
So
lobby?
that's another reason to put actually to make that lobby sort of symmetrical, right?
Hmm.
Because you have the bay window on Fifth Avenue, which is why we wanted to add it on 22nd Street. What we had approval for from Landmarks in terms of ADA for any of the retail entries
Yeah,
was a push button,
right,
the button that would automatically open the door
Right.
out. Same thing.
okay.
So we'll just use what was approved back in 2020, which was a button that would, swing the door open.
And that's into the residential lobby, or is that for the retail?
Well, it could be either for the lobby, they do need the ADA access.
Right.
So that's why we'll provide it on 22nd Street. But as part of the overall master plan, we do have that option that they can take any of these storefronts, right?
Right,
And they could order, they could put the button on,
right.
right? And have these doors automatically open.
Mhm. Okay. That's reasonable.
So the main residential entrance is the double doors or is it revolving?
No, it's a revolving door.
Revolving doors,
Yeah.
so that's the lot.
Yeah, that's the new lobby and entry.
With regard to the rooftop. In addition to moving the equipment and the structures, it appears that there's more than there used to be. And I recall you saying, that some of this was due to the fact that the building was residential instead of commercial. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit? Why the rooftop, structures would be different for a residential building? And to, what percentage increase, which do you have in terms of total structures and equipment on top of the building compared to now?
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know what the percentage difference is, but I mean, if you look at this, now you gotta remember, right? They had air conditioning units in every single one. There were 500 air conditioning units in these windows, right? Which have come out,
All right,
right? Which is why I didn't have basically any equipment on the roof.
okay.
Right. Here, right? Now, what was approved, because it was commercial use, right? Was the cooling towers, right? And some other boiler flues and other items, right? And a solar bulkhead, right? There was one, in the existing building, there was only one elevator that actually went up to that 21st floor. All right. Now, because it's residential, and there was no access to the roof originally, right? The access to the roof was actually from the 21st floor, and there was a series of ladders that went up, right? So in the proposal back in 2020, it was the additional equipment that was used for the office space. Access was still to the roof, was still through a ladder, right? Because you're using the existing elevators. All that's gone, right? Now we have a scissor stair because it's residential, right? Scissor stair has to go up to the rooftop.
What kind of stair?
Scissor stair, right? In residential buildings where you have two entries, they go, up, right, like that, right? So both of them, because they're separate, have to exit out on the roof, right? So that's the biggest bolt that's added to the rooftop, right? Then you've got the elevators, right? And because you've got to service the floor below, right? The bulkheads are popping up. And then basically you almost have the same equipment, right? I mean, there's the cooling towers, here's the cooling towers. But because it's also residential, because of energy codes, which have actually changed in 2020, where residential, you need the air recovery units, right? So we had to add the two energy recovery units here and here. That was a change. Okay.
And actually, we had even more. We had a generator up there that was placed in the basement because we couldn't make it fit. And that was part of the new one. And that's why there's some of the louvers on the storefront to the exhaust.
Did you have to fortify the roof at all? I mean, it's strong enough that we didn't have to make any changes?
We will have to.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah,
And what impact will that have on the design and structure of the building?
they will. They won't have it. Sure.
I'm sure this is obvious, but you made these cooling towers as low as you could,
So, yeah.
because that's the only thing that's a little bit like, of all of it, and that seems very difficult, and I get it's commendable how you guys have done this, but the height of it is, I know it's from West 23rd or those particular other options that you chose in lieu of the park for visibility is, what I suppose you had to do, but you can still see it.
Yeah, well, we went to the lowest equipment,
I'm sure you
lowest
did.
profile equipment you could actually find.
Yeah.
And we went through all sorts of configurations, right? Yeah, I think the optimal location in terms of visibility, actually, for those bigger, for those cooling towers was on that 22nd Street side, right? And it was least visible on the 22nd Street side.
Why? Because there is other buildings that have visible accommodations for modern crimes and you can see
Well,
it,
that happens
or is
all-
it because?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it happens all the time, right? I mean, on.
no, we see it all the time, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I came up with two more questions. What kind of energy efficiency you're gaining with these new windows? One, and I see in the 2020 approved model, you had some solar panels. Were they not of any value in this new energy plan?
For the solar panels, we're limited on roof space to put enough up there to actually make them worthwhile. If we had more roof space, then we would look into it to try and capture it, because it does get such great natural light, direct sunlight. But we just don't have the space right now to have enough panels to actually do it on the building size. And so we're applying, we're trying to provide the highest possible standards of windows here, that the cloud energy code meets that attenuation as well.
And what kind of efficiency increase are we getting with these new windows? Is there any way to know? I mean, is the rating gonna change from, an F a D to a, a B or C?
Oh, with the energy,
Yeah, with the windows, the new windows.
we haven't done any kind of updated energy model. I think the goal is to try and, with the conditions we have, to get the highest performing window we can from an OITC rating. So to make sure that we're complying and also delivering a great indoor experience.
Yes, thank you.
You mentioned all the research that went into the discovery of the original window color. Is that what we're seeing now?
That's there.
That brown?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what it'll continue to be, that same color, just a new version of it. Regarding the storefronts, some of the newer bays that you're changing, I think if I remember from the 2020 app, was the original cast iron or some of that?
Was the original what, Tony?
Cast iron. So the alterations and the bays that are getting changed, what's that material going to be?
Yeah, it would probably be the same material. you know, none of these storefronts are original either.
Right.
There's actually one storefront, which might be original, which was the one on the corner of Broadway and 22nd Street, right? There was just one left, which is original. All of them have been altered many times over the years, but you know, they're actually fairly simple. And they're all sort of, you know, stock, cast pieces, right? And so there's a little kit of parts that goes with each of these storefronts and they would be replicated.
And then just one more, one to each of you. The repairs that need to be made in the terracotta, you know, throughout the building, is that the original terracotta that needs repair, or are they repairs that need repair?
My guess is probably both, because because there wasn't, I believe in 2004, there was facade repair as well, and so I think,
There's
and so-
repairs, there's replacement pieces that is part of that, the mortar is getting changed as well, there's Dutchman, there's a slew of repair components. So,
Thank you. I'm gonna ask you a few myself. So first, did I hear correctly, the windows, you don't know if you'll be able to get them fabricated in the dimensions that you showed? You know, that correct?
we won't be wrong.
You will? Okay, because I thought I heard that you're still sort of
No,
working through the
we
manufacturer.
have several mock-ups that we're doing, and we're just eliminating those that cannot do it. But we're getting to manufacturers that can.
Okay, so we will get that dimension, you're just not sure who will do it.
Correct.
Okay. Is signage part of that original master plan? And if so, is any of it being modified? Because I saw like some signage kind of in the renderings, but I wasn't sure if that was just, you know, placeholders or.
No, at this time, there's no signage master plan. It was not included in the original.
Will you be doing a mock-up of the mechanical units, like the true mock-up, you know, the orange
Yeah, so
Fabric.
what we did that originally, right?
for the 2020, you're
Yeah,
saying?
we did in 2020. I don't know. We'll have to work with staff on that.
Okay, because, because it seemed like in many of your renderings, the thing that was actually visible was not the units, but the screening itself. Is that accurate? What is that? Is that screening acoustic or visual? Or both?
Both, so it's a zoning requirement. To screen in all the mechanical units.
For acoustic reasons. Right.
And then,
Which was not required if it was commercial use.
Oh, interesting.
and then the guardrail, which is also visible in some of that, that's required because it's serviceable, okay. And then final question for you, Valerie, which is, the continuing maintenance plan. Can you talk a little bit more about that and sort of how that meets or exceeds the requirements that are already there under local law 11?
Well, local law 11 is really designed for safety, but you have to get landmarks approval for the work that you do. So landmarks, well, if you weren't landmarked, you can sort of safely remove anything that might be loose or tottering, you know, just take it away. If you're a landmark building, landmarks won't let you do that, and they require you to repair it and keep it in place. So there is the continuing maintenance plan, though, is sort of, it's a higher standard because it's not just safety, it's appearance and aesthetics. So they will, and it encompasses more than just the facade, it encompasses the mechanical system, it encompasses the windows. Here, we're replacing the mechanical systems in the windows, so that's already taken care of. But it's generally designed to sort of require that all aspects of the building, which includes aspects covered by the local law, but go beyond that, are kept in sound first-class condition so that the landmark stays in that condition.
Bradley, can I ask a question on that question? And that is, since this is such a revered building, and it's obviously a landmark building, so you're talking about standards, it going from a commercial space, and uniformity to a residential, will there be any kind of master, I mean, you may not have the answer to this, and this may be a suggestion. So it's many things, but, you know, as it goes to residential, the window or lack of uniformity may end up happening because of drapes and curtains and sort of the visit. Will there be any kind of master plan? You've gone to so much trouble to keep it uniform and keep it a landmark. I'm just very curious, and I may not have an answer. I know with regards to the building I am in, there is a request for that kind of uniformity because the visibility outside ends up changing because it's residential and people kind of sort of do whatever. You may not have the answer to that, but it may be something that I would submit as something to think about, because that now that it's no longer commercial, that may change some of what we love about the building, in keeping it uniform.
Landmarks doesn't regulate lines and shades.
But the,
I
know,
but residential condo associations
can.
often do.
Well, can you
and-
mention that to them now?
Yeah, it doesn't exist yet, but
Did not come up with.
In some buildings, that does exist, so,
yeah, no, I know, it's so, I mean.
well, bring it up,
Right.
bring it up, thank you,
Because I think,
Your windows will be part of the master plan.
good.
Mark and then John.
And this may have been addressed already, but speaking of the windows, is there any, are there gonna be any changes to the color or any other elements?
Back to the roof again, with respect to the roof, given, what, if you look at the current structures and their height and you look at the new ones, what's the differential? In other words, what's the differential between the existing highest structure and the newest highest structure?
Same height. So the existing structure,
So why is it more visible? Why will it's solely because of where it's located that it's gonna be more visible?
in their location, yes, it's where it's located, right? It's a size and equipment that's needed, required,
But
Right, and
nothing to do with the height.
nothing to do with the height. Well, the height of the current bulkheads are 9 foot 3 inches. All the equipment we are showing is at 9 feet. So we're staying below at about the same height as the existing bulkhead.
So it's primarily driven by the location of where the equipment is.
Okay, and something I didn't quite understand was the markup, why? I thought that was pretty much standard, that you would have the markup on top of the building that one could physically see. These are all just renderings, this is just your perception of how things will be viewed as opposed to a real.
Yeah, there wasn't, well, in 2020, there was a mock-up.
Right, but why not,
Right.
again, now, I
Right.
didn't quite understand that.
No, it's something, we'll have a discussion with staff regarding, whether they want to mock up.
Okay, and when do they not require one?
staff originally thought that they were going to approve this at staff level, and they did not impose a requirement for a mock-up. And I think they've decided, since all of the other work had to come to the public hearing, that they would include this. And in connection with that, they might ask us to do a mock-up. They did want to see, for instance, the window mock-ups when they're in place, so we'll be talking with them. If they do ask us to do a mock-up, we can send those photographs to the board.
Hi, so I have a bunch of questions. Most of the people, or plenty of our members of the Landmark Committee are architects. I'm a tour guide. I know buckets about windows. Could somebody explain what a tilt and turn window is to me and how it works?
Sure. Basically, a tilt and turn, it's a European style window. You have your double hung, which obviously goes up, comes down. What a tilt and turn does is the top pane stays fixed, does not move.
Right?
The bottom pane tilts in like this.
It's a hopper.
So there's a fulcrum on the bottom,
Right.
so it tilts in, okay?
Then it goes back, you flip the handle 180 and it opens it like a door.
So it pivots.
Correct.
Ah,
It cleans.
pivot and, okay, thank you. I learn something new all the time. Now, also, I noticed that on the pictures that you had, I have a whole bunch of slide numbers written down here. Number 4, 13, 15, 27, and I had questions on every one of them. So maybe by looking at it, it will remind me. But while I'm at it, let me ask you to go to number 4 from the first presentation that Carlos was making. Number 4. Okay, wait, you could stop here, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. Go back to
Got there
that.
by mistake.
So at the right angle here, on Fifth Avenue and 22nd Street, that's where the new people enter, tenant enter. By the way, my name is on the list to be called when these things go up for sale, just by the way. I'll be the first one. So over here at the right angle is where it's gonna be. Okay, that's cool. Now, on this side here, on the Broadway side, about this way, you got a slide that shows that entrance over there on the ground floor? I know you do. It says Flatiron Building on it. Okay,
No, that's
right,
it.
Flatiron Building.
Yeah. It's
What
the
slide
same-
is that
it's the
on?
same door.
Which
It's
one
the
did I
same
wrote?
door.
Yeah, let me go back.
Okay, now, we all know that the name of this building is the Fuller Building, yes? Not the Flatiron Building. Does it say, I can't see now, there's scaffolding there, so you really can't see into that entrance. That, by the way, goes through from Broadway to Fifth Avenue, yes, it goes right through there. Does it say Flatiron there now?
I don't know if it does. It may just have the address, 175.
It might, or it might say the Fuller Building, which is what it said at the beginning.
It might.
Okay,
we
so
know.
what's gonna go back there? Is that landmark?
Yes, no, well,
Yes, no, that's a W.
yes.
It's
The
landmark.
door that's currently there,
Is,
no, that was replaced, those doors have been replaced at 3 different times.
right,
The
Right.
sign, the
So,
name, are you just referring to the name? This-
yes, what name is gonna be on the building?
oh, I don't know.
I don't think we've.
Now, is that regulated
We just-
by the landmarks?
Great question.
It should be, no?
They don't usually regulate the content of this sign.
Signage?
It won't be
Flatiron's
Trump.
like iconic.
It won't be Trump.
Yeah. They want to be able to sell the apartment.
Yes, exactly.
We got a good.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that's right.
so we don't know the
We don't.
answer to that. Okay, I get it.
Right.
Could you maybe
Even on the land-
turn to slide, oh,
Huh.
on roof, when you look from the park and you're looking at the building, there's a medallion on the roof, yes? Two people standing and in front there's a shield, like a shield with two. Can you find the roof, looking south from, Works Square, for example? Now, there's a medallion, you see it? You got any larger pictures maybe of that medallion?
Look at the bottom one.
Ah. It's not much larger, but you see, there's a shield, and on either side of the shield, there's like two figures, which you can't tell what they are from the bottom unless you have a really high-powered magnifying thing. But is that gonna be kept? Is it gonna be restored? Is it gonna be refinished? Is it gonna be remodeled? What? With the
It will
shield?
be included in the restoration of the
Yeah.
facade.
So they'll improve, they'll patch it up, they'll
It needs
paint
it,
it up,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, detail.
Well, I think it needs it. Last time I looked. Okay, I wanted to find out about that. Also, originally, when this building was built, I remember reading in one of my research books that all the store levels were bays. They were all cooked out, but then there was wind problems and the wind made it not easy for those to exist, and they would blow out and there'd be accidents. Anybody read this stuff?
Yeah.
Like I read?
There were issues with some of the storefronts. Now, if you notice on, the storefronts that are on the north side of the building, north side of the main entry to the lobby, most of those are flat.
They were changed.
Yeah.
They were
That's
changed.
where the issue was. Right.
Oh, I thought it was on all sides.
No, so I think, maybe they were all.
So are you putting back my point is, if you're replacing those bays, might it not activate that same problem that existed 100 years ago?
We're not touching any of the bays on Fifth and on Broadway, none of the bays.
Okay,
are
but just on
It's just
22nd.
on 22nd Street, and I don't think there's a window.
I don't think there's a wind issue there either.
How many more you got, Mike?
Couple.
Okay.
Is that okay?
No, keep
Are we
going.
not having fun?
No, we're having a great time. Keep going.
Hey, Mike, tour, you'll learn about this stuff too. All right, number 4. Could you go to number 4, please?
On
Which one?
the window for?
No, this thing. Yeah, okay. I think I asked that question on one of the other ones. Because I wanted to know that this corner, you told me that there's gonna be the entrance for the people in the building. Yes, okay. Number 13, please. So nothing's happened to the cow catcher, that's staying?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing to cow catcher for, new work for you? Okay, that was not my question, but I don't remember what my question, 15? That might be the last one. Oh, yeah, that was because of the Flatiron Building, I wanted to talk
Yeah,
about that.
we're not. We don't have.
Okay, thank you, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Just one more
Barbara,
question. So, with the hopper for the aquavit part of the window, so when people want to get a little fresh air into their, unit, that's what's gonna pop open, but I'm just sort of curious, so if you can swing it open for cleaning, are people going to have window guards on?
They're locked. You can lock the mechanism so it can't turn 180 and over.
So the city, so that would satisfy the city's requirement. Oh, that's good. Okay.
Put cards or anything like that.
Okay. And you're going to this type of window because you get better energy efficiency and you more closely match the original profile.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
The energy efficiency is on the air tightness of that window. It's much tighter.
I see.
So you don't
Okay.
get with air leakage as you do in the building.
Yeah, okay. That's all I thought.
Any other questions from many members of the committee? We're very thorough. All right. I'm gonna open up to members of the public. Any questions from members of the public? All right, seeing none, we'll now move into business session.
The comments are in the business center.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, so comments. Start with you, Zool, and then Barbara.
I have to say, such a well-prepared presentation, and you've shown all the respect that this glorious, totally beloved building deserves. I can't thank you enough. And just love the restoration of the bay windows, replicating the original color, the respect for the sight lines from the park. I mean, it's just really beautifully done. The 22nd Street, Fifth Avenue residential lobby entrance, so smart traffic wise, really superbly done. I love it. Suzanne raised an interesting question. I don't know really how I think about it yet, but it's really something worth discussion in terms of what's going to happen inside. Could be, something to give further thought about. But we love this building, and I think you've really given it the respect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara.
Well, just in the interest of full disclosure, I worked for that firm, but like so long ago. So I just wanted everybody to know. So, no, I don't feel it's a conflict of interest. I would tell you how long ago it was, but I think it was in the 90s. So, yes, yeah, we were just wet behind the ears. So.
Term is passed.
Yes, I think so. But yes, it was an excellent presentation. I think that the architects have gone out of their way to minimize the impact of the equipment on the roof. I mean, there's no way around it. These things are required. But they've done everything possible, from what I could tell from the presentation, to really minimize the impact. And actually, I think the screening really helps, both from a visual point of view and obviously it's a requirement for acoustics. I really don't really have any hesitation about this presentation. I think it's the condition of the building for a long time has been very sad. So seeing a plan going forward to get the scaffolding off and make this building look as it did years ago and taking out all of the window air conditioners will be a huge improvement as well. So, so I'm
Such good
very-
recycling and reuse.
yeah, so I very much in favor of this proposal.
Do you have additional comment?
I was gonna just reiterate that and say, well done, and then also, it's just such a pleasure to see a landmark be revitalized for housing that we need so much and in such a professional way.
Tony and then Peter.
So just a comment on, materials, they're doing everything the right way. We saw this in 2020 for those of us that were here. The restoration, they're doing a great job. I love that they're maintaining the original wood trim. the original wood windows that are still wood.
And the curved windows.
Yes. And it's worth noting, it doesn't apply here because they're replacing aluminum windows to aluminum windows, but it's worth noting for us as a committee, the original wood windows have lasted 120 years on this building. The aluminum windows that are there now have lasted 20.
Huh.
So when we see this coming to us, we got to keep that in mind. Aluminum windows are very short life. But overall, I think the application is fantastic, very minimal visibility, which is absolutely key with its positioning on the open part. So, yeah, I like it.
Obviously, the presentation wonderful. The one disturbing thing, and I would just keep wondering if there isn't a way to get the egress units and not add double doors on the 22nd Street side. It's short elevation and it's so regimented and beautiful right now. And it just seems like in a lot of you do have the egress units elsewhere. But maybe I'm wrong, but that does seem quite disturbing.
So great job, guys. Love it. And I was thinking about the terracotta that you were talking about and the restoration and how difficult. And as I recall that the lady who got hit up in the head by the terracotta falling from the building that made local law 11 happen in the first place, that was from a terracotta piece that fell from up at Brandeis or Cornell or some college.
Columbia.
Yeah, it would be. I knew it would be school. And this building, between the base and the Capitol, that's all terracotta, right? You got all of that terracotta there, and all of those pieces are now, we know, secure because they got all of that scaffolding on since before COVID and before the building changed hands back and forth a couple of times. And I'm loving the fact that they are taking extra care to make sure that it's not gonna fall on anybody's head.
Great. So just to frame this a little bit, and it seems like we're all sort of in agreement, but just to sort of split this out into, I know we have three kind of propositions before us, but I'm going to break it into four. So we have the window replacement, the storefront modifications at the ground floor, the mechanical units at the top, and then the 1520B conversion to residential. How do people sort of feel about each of those items? Are there any reservations on any of those items that ought to be included in a resolution, or are we sort of full steam ahead on all four?
Can we do it all in one motion?
We can do it all in one motion. I just want to sort of address any comments or concerns broken up that way.
Yeah, I just think the storefront, I have the one concern about the new double doors on the south elevation.
How do others feel about that? Oh,
About the double door,
correct.
I feel like I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But
I was gonna say, I mean, we're out of questions. Is it worth asking the applicant if that's required by code? Because I believe
They said it was.
They said it was required.
It's an egress, yeah.
Okay, so doesn't sound like there's much we can do about that.
I mean, without reconfiguring the interior of the building. Right.
And probably, I guess, when you requested with regards to retail, were there any additional comments? You had answered, answered that the signage would be minimal or in keeping with the building, that this retail.
That signage, actually, they said the signage was not even part of the master plan.
Okay. Just want to clarify that. Thank you.
So,
And what's up there, the T-Mobile is up there, is the standard thing that's not gonna change.
Yeah, are these comments for any of the four?
any of the four.
Okay, this is a beautiful building, and I agree with all the comments about how well a job you've done. A key element of this building, for me at least, is the roof, the whole building. And so let's take the trust but verify approach here. It's my impression, or my feeling, that a mock-up would be important, that we shouldn't just be relying on a rendering. So at a very minimum, as a condition in the reso, I'd like for them to get back to you, verifying either the staff has clearly said that's not required, or if it is required, could that result, if that results in a material difference from what's been presented here, that somehow this has to be revisited.
Speaking for myself, I sort of have the same feeling that this is such an important landmark in our
Right.
district that for many, perhaps a render would suffice, but a mock-up in this one seems to me to be kind of a critical step
I
that we
agree.
should not we should not skip, even though clearly efforts were taken to address that.
Right.
How do others feel?
We wouldn't be satisfied with the staff recommendation on that.
Would we?
I agree with you, and I agree with you, Brett, on that.
That we should request a mock-up regardless of staff's
Yes, I think
position.
they qualified that, but I think that, as Answer, I think that would be an important thing to have done. And I agree with you. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I do too.
Me too. Is it time for a resolution?
We have a motion?
Well, I have a quick question. With the mock-up, do you know how quickly that could be prepared? Because that's something that could be done prior to our full board meeting.
No, I don't do it.
Sorry, I'm not worried.
But to address that, I mean, even if it is not, we're not able to physically see it ourselves, we can put in our resolution that we would like to make sure that that is done in
Right.
advance of any approval.
So it won't be a delay in going to the full
No.
board meeting.
Correct.
That's good.
Full board meeting is still happening
Right,
same
right,
day,
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, so there'll be no delay in this. That's great.
I would like to say even one thing, even if you don't do a mock-up, if, when you're constructing it, the visibility is more than what was shown in the renderings to the commission, they will make you change it so that it conforms. They're very strict about that, so it's not like, oh, we made a mistake, they say, fix it. So,
Do we have a motion?
Yeah. Motion to approve with the concern about the mock-up, and I don't think there was anything else.
Second. All right, let's take this to a vote.
Okay, I have you listed first, Brad.
Oh, yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
okay. Laura, I think that she was virtual.
Yeah. Laura, are you still with us? She is no longer with us.
Okay. Is Rob?
Yes.
Okay, John?
Yes.
Okay, me, I'm yes. Is Robert? Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Okay, Sachi?
Yes.
Okay, Dual?
Yes.
Okay, and then Suzanne?
Yes.
Okay, Karen? It's not here. Okay, Barbara?
Yes.
Okay, and Peter?
Yes.
Okay, and Tony?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we will move on to our next item, 647 Fifth Avenue. We have the applicant with us.
Yes, hi, I'm the applicant.
All right, great.
Okay.
So feel free to share your screen and take it away.
Okay, sharing screen.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so first of all, an introduction. I'm James Botha. I'm from the architecture firm RDC. We do a lot of retail, and this is a retail project. This is, let's see, so I lived in New York many years, actually just moved to Los Angeles a few years ago. My architecture license is from New York, and I'm very excited to work on a landmark building with such a history of this one. It is mostly interior remodel what we're doing. What we're presenting to you is really just to get Landmark's approval on the changes we're planning on doing to signage and lighting to bring it up to speed with new technology and then the new signage for the brand. Technology meaning, a lot has changed in lighting since the lighting was done here about 25 years ago. There's not any design changes we're doing to the lighting in the sense that we're trying to light the building any differently. It's just sort of an upgrade. So 647 Fifth Avenue. This is also known as the George W. Vanderbilt residence, since it was a Vanderbilt building designed by the architects Hunt and Hunt, who were the sons of Richard Morris Hunt, who, throughout the 19th century built many of the historic, beautiful buildings that are landmarked here in New York City, but particularly worked a lot with the Vanderbilt family. This is located between 51st Street and 52nd Street, right next door to the Cartier building, which dates to about the same time period. It's one of the few, along with the Cartier building, it's really one of the few remaining Beaux-Arts residential mansions in this section of New York. So it's pretty critical that that it remains and that its history is preserved. Yeah, so like I said, it was built by George W. Vanderbilt, although he never lived in the residence. And it was built in the Louis XV style, all marble facade. It originally had a twin building next to it, which you can see in this photograph. 647 is on the left and 645 is on the right, which was unfortunately torn down in 1945. The original residence was Robert Goelet and Elise Whelan, who only lived in this space for maybe 10 years before it was leased in 1917 to an art dealership, and it's been commercially used ever since. In the early 1900s, maybe sometime after 1917, the art dealership who operated out of there first added a fourth and fifth floor to the original three-story building. And by doing so, they moved the original marble balustrade, which you see here at the top of the building, up. So they preserved this marble balustrade. So the one that you see is still original to the building, even though it's higher up. And I'll show you some photos a couple slides later of it next to the old building while it was still standing. You can kind of see what that change was. 1938, there was a more substantial renovation done. I think a lot of the floor plates were opened up on the interior of the building. So a lot of the structure of the building actually dates back to more like 1938, which is a steel structure. I think the original building was more of a masonry design. And let's see, the other thing that was done in 1938 to make it more commercial is this whole, I think they call it like English basement style apartment portion with the stairs up were all removed, and it was all brought down to sidewalk level. And they also changed the facade to more of a plate glass window for retail. The building was landmarked in 1977, and Versace moved in 1995, signed a 20-year lease with the building, and did a full historic restoration of the facade to sort of honor the original Hunt and Hunt design. And I'll show you that in future slides as well. They brought back the 3 arched marble windows and got rid of the large plate glass window that was there in 1938. They also added a 6th floor penthouse, which is sort of a VIP section that has a terrace that used to be part of the roof. And this was done to sort of mimic the original style of which it was built. So now we are here today. The space is vacant, and my client is moving in later this year. I'm overseeing the retail remodel that's happening. We're not making any structural changes. Everything is finishes and fixtures on the interior that we're updating. So the building shell structure, facade is all essentially remaining the same. If you sort of orient yourself from a bird's eye view, here's the space. Down here is where the twin building used to be. Cartier is right next door on the corner lot. That space also had 1 resident in it and changed occupancy to commercial around the same time. St. Patrick's Cathedral, Rockefeller Center starts here. Here's some context of the city block. Here you've got Cartier. Here you've got 647 Fifth Avenue. And these are the only 2 real landmarked buildings on the block. The rest is much newer tenancies that aren't governed by landmarks. Here's some historic photographs. This one that I used for the cover sheet from the originally built You can even see the for lease sign on the front, right? Things is for sale. Here you can see what they did in 1938. They added the upper floors here, moved the balustrade up, and then changed the entire ground floor to be more like a giant retail show window with 2 sets of doors, one for the ground floor tenant and one for the upstairs tenants. They also removed the existing marble balustrade and replaced it with wrought iron. This was part of the restoration that Versace did in the late 90s to bring back that marble, and they restored it really quite beautifully. I mean, it looks original to the building. Wanted to show some context also for other landmark buildings in the neighborhood, including the Plaza Building, Bergdorf Goodman's, St. Regis Hotel, the Peninsula Hotel, the University Club. These are all great examples, and I wanted to reference these as well to show how we are honoring the way these buildings are lit. We're not changing anything on the ground floor lighting wise. We're simply replacing with the existing old canned lights that are bolted to the buildings and replacing them with much more slimline LED grazers that also do less damage to the building the way they're installed. They can just be installed with a silicone tape rather than drilling holes into the original marble facade. Here's a good view of the building as you see it from ground level. So as you can see, you can't really see anything above this 5th floor balustrade. That penthouse I mentioned earlier isn't really visible from the street, but it would be visible from, I suppose, the buildings across the street from the upper floors. And this photo dates back to when I visited the site last fall. So the Versace signage was already removed, but the canopies, the canvas canopies, were still in place. You can also see there used to be a Versace non-lit sign pin mounted in this central part of the building between the 2nd and the 3rd floor. My tenant is proposing to put a signage back there since there's damage to the original building anyway, covering it up with a new sign, also non-lit. Let's see. Showing some detailed photographs, showing how the current canvas awnings are mounted to the building. It's really in 2 locations, both on the interior jamb of the window sills, both at the top level and the bottom. They're basically bolted to the side. We are proposing to replace these awnings, including the awning structure. But we are, if we get approval to do so, we are fixing them in the same locations to not create any more damage to the building that's already been done. Lighting is all, like I said, going to be much more delicately attached to the building to not cause damage. Here you can see some of the original lights, how they're bolted to the facade. These will be infilled and patched. And the cabling leads to these existing receptacles, power receptacles that we are keeping in place. So we're not adding any new, we're not drilling any holes into the structure or anything like that. We're just reusing the existing power the way it is. And the LED lights, existing drivers, remote drivers will also be sort of just kept within the balustrade, much like these are. We'll clean up the wiring and whatnot. And then this shows you what that 6th floor penthouse looks like. And we are proposing to also update these lights, as a lot of them are no longer functional. Ground floor. I just wanted to show you some text for Versace, what they used to look like. So Versace had 1-dimensional set of letters in the center arch, 2 plaques, 2 vinyl signs on the glazing at street level. And they had, on the upper floors, they have 2 flags, which I believe they updated depending on the season. This looks like it was around St. Patrick's Day, maybe. Or no, that's the Italian flag. My bad. That's because of Versace. And then they had their logo on all the awnings, which was explained to us by Landmarks that, you know, we need Landmarks approval on that beyond staff level. So thus we are doing these Landmark meetings to get that approved, because our client also hopes to have canvas awnings on each window with their logo. And then you can see the logo here that I'm talking about between the second and third floor. Okay, so I bring you to the proposed design. So this is just to give you overall context, site context. We'll have more detailed imagery next, but just showed the day view. There's going to be signage on the ground floor, new flags used on the same existing flagpoles, and replacing the canvas awnings and the sign on the second floor. Night view is really just to show you the lighting and how it would look at night. You know, you can see sort of these unlit signs, dimensional logos here in these arched windows. Unlike what Versace did, my client would rather have the signage above each show window rather than above the entrance, but fixed in the same sort of silicone way to the existing glass. And you can see the lighting, basically nothing added to the ground floor, just some slimline LEDs in front of the balustrades on the second floor and on the fifth floor. And then longer optic grazers lighting up the second and third floor and the fourth and fifth floor. Here you can see the ground level. Similar to what Versace did, the real difference is instead of one logo in the front over the entrance, they would like their logos above each show window. And these are dimensional letters that are siliconed to the glass, and these are vinyl letters at the pedestrian level. And then these are the plaques that they're proposing to go with. They look like they're made to look like the marble. So I believe they will be marble plaques as opposed to the old plaques, which were a sort of a polished steel, polished stainless. The difference with the awnings is, so the client is Skims, and they're a shapewear company. They do shapewear, underwear, and apparel. And part of their look is very organic, you know, human body shapes and things like that. So we thought the appropriate way to try and do a change to the awnings could do this domed awning, which exists elsewhere in New York City. There's historical context for domed awnings. And so we're planning to use that sort of a dome awning design here. It's also more structural. It'll stay neater looking over time. The type of awnings that are used now get beat up from weather and wind. These are more like stretched canvas awnings over a steel skeletal frame. So they would weather better over time. And then here you can see the logos that would be pin mounted to the central portion of between the second and the third floors, as Versace had. And here's some details of those letters. This looks three-dimensional, but again, it's just a flat vinyl application to the windows, whereas the upper ones are dimensional, no more than a 2-inch thickness to comply with Landmarks regulations. Showing the flags that they would propose to use, at least upon opening, the Skims logo and color Pantone, and the lighting. I'll show you more on this. They've got a very slim line. These are only about 3/4 of an inch profile lights that would light up the balustrade, and then at the top of the balustrade to light up the second and third floor, it's a bigger light. It's about an inch and a half profile. And these lights, these inch and a half lights, are used here and here, so they can get the longer throw. And then the slimmer line ones just light up the balustrades here and here, and as well as at the top here of the top pediment of the penthouse. Some details here showing where they're fixed on the building. You know, basically you can see here that these wouldn't really be visible from the street. These are all the way up on the, which one? These are up here. These are way up here. So you're not going to see these from the street. This one is the one that lights up the second and third floor. This one, we're doing a mock-up with a lighting designer. We didn't get time to do it before this meeting. We can definitely follow up with the photographic mock-ups that we're planning on doing the next couple of weeks, because this is the only one that could be seen from the street. As you're looking up, it would be like right up here on this shelf. It's going to be mostly covered by the marble shelf, but you know, certainly from standing further back, you'd be able to see it. We're planning on covering it with a 1-inch height flange to match the marble, to be as subtle as possible. And these are the light fixtures themselves. Cut sheets on the LED grazers with remote drivers, with a tunable light going from 2200 to 4000 Kelvin. Fine, and the point of that is not that these will be the lights that sort of, you know, those kind of LEDs that change color. It's really just to get the right color temperature that's appropriate for the exterior of the building. So it would be color set and only done once. Appendix. I just wanted to show you some references. This is the lighting designer we're using. They're a local New York lighting designer called Dot Dash, and this is just an example of another building that they did on Broadway. And then these are the signage shop drawings, just in case you had more questions on how these were fixed to the building. Like I said, these are just silicone to the glass, the dimensional letters. This is just connected to the same anchor points as the existing plaques. And this is just the vinyl on glass. And then showing the structure of the awnings, this is the steel structure. And these are the connection points here and here to the side jamb. And the flags are currently designed at 36 by 60 inches, which is comparable to the other flags next door in Cartier. And just for reference, the floor plans, in case we wanted to reference them at any point, but you know, the interior is not landmarked, and we're not doing any structural modifications to the building, simply finishes and fixtures and equipment. That is the conclusion of my presentation. So, you know, to recap, what we're proposing here at 647 Fifth Avenue is updating the signage to the new brand, which is basically the same signage as Versace had, the only difference being 2 logos in the side arched windows over the show windows instead of one central one, and then changing the canvas awnings to domed awnings. And I would like to also point out the awnings that are there currently don't have any real historic precedent. Versace was, as far as we know, the first tenant to introduce awnings. You can see all these old buildings. We even have a photograph from the 1980s that also didn't have any awnings. And then just replacing the lighting. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Questions from the committee?
Cool, thank you, Bradley. This is a sweet building. I love Beaux-Arts and we have so little of this left. No questions on the lighting. I think that's gonna be quite a plus. And the signage over the showcase windows, no issue. The flags, unless they're temporary, I would question them. But particularly the shape of the awnings, the dome awnings, I'd like to open that to discussion. That I would question, wonder if the client would entertain something other than that shape. But I'll leave that for the discussion.
Is that a question?
It is a question whether or not the client would entertain another shape in terms of the awnings.
Yeah, the client would entertain that. And Landmarks is already, you know, we'll have our Landmarks hearing as well. It's scheduled for April 16th. And there was some, basically the staff level people that we reviewed with said there might be some pushback on what we're proposing there for the awnings. So yes, the client is definitely open to either just replacing what's there and not doing any change to the structural portion of the awnings and only changing the canvas to some other happy medium.
And the brand name flags would be temporary for the opening?
Well, all I meant by that is, you know, you can see how like during certain holidays, sometimes people put like, I don't know, an American flag, you know, during Independence Day or, you know, other kinds of flags, maybe during holidays that maybe the color of the flag would change. But this is the flag that we're proposing to go with the opening, the grand opening that we're planning for this November.
And I would question the client's willingness to change that for the opening. That's fair enough, but as a permanent brand name flag, I would question whether or not the client would entertain using something else.
I mean, I would think so, especially if there's like, I'm not aware of, you know, what kind of landmark requirements there would be. When we looked through the signage requirements from Landmarks, there was nothing specific about, you know, what the flags need to be. So we're definitely open to doing, you know, what we need to do to get approval on this from Landmarks. If it needs to, you know, not be some sort of a branded flag, we would be open to changing it if we had to. Yeah.
Following up on Zul's first question, you said that the domed awning had you had a reference point somewhere else. Do you have something that you could show us to point us to that, or are there examples of that domed awning being used elsewhere in the nearby buildings? You're on mute.
Sorry, yeah. I was like, where's my mute button? You know, I haven't found a historic precedent for it. I have found domed awnings in New York City that are newer. I know some bank buildings have done some domed awnings. I know some residences have done a domed front over. Typically they happen when you have an arched window. And so, you know, the natural way to do a canvas awning over an arched window is to do the dome style.
But is that, sorry, just to clarify, is that in the neighborhood or just in the city generally?
In the city generally. But we've seen it added to historic buildings that have an arched window.
And in a Beaux-Arts building?
I'm sorry?
And for a Beaux-Arts building?
Yeah, here, let me see if I can, I know I have this somewhere. Well, I'll see if we can open up panel to other questions. I'm just trying to see if I can find this photo.
Barbara?
I also had some questions, but I think they've been answered on the domed awnings. I assume that the color is the color because that's the brand, the brand of the color of the brand.
Correct. Yeah, that's one of the brand's master colors.
And is the name also on the awning?
Yes, we're proposing to brand the awnings here like this.
I see. Okay. I'll save my comments to comments.
I know, try not to comment. I'm thrilled that someone's going into this building, so yay for that. Would the client, and maybe this has already been covered, but it seems as though these domes and the color are the product itself. And that it's supposed to take, being a female, and not that I would ever use this product or need it, but but it's domed to convey the use of the product, what the product is, that's the color, and that's a lot of signage. And would the client be willing to, and I understand what they're trying to do, they're trying to brand the building. Would the client be open to pulling back a little bit, because this is a landmark building and not Disneyfying the building so much, sorry about that.
Good work.
And so it's because it's too much. Do you think that they would pull back a little bit with this dramatic, albeit subtle in color, branding? Would they be open to that, you think, James?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, for instance, okay, so first of all, I think why we went in with this is because we were kind of following the precedent that Versace had. So, the client saw this and said, oh, well, we want to do that. So, for sure, this is what we first like to do. And if there is concern over it looking, too branded, which we could definitely pare back to, maybe it's only on these sets of windows and we remove them up here, or it's only these, or, whatever else it might be, or if we don't want them all to have the branded logos on them. But yeah, there would be, we would definitely want to respect, we have a lot of respect for this historic building, and we certainly want to do it justice and not, deter from its historical legacy.
Thank you, James. I appreciate you saying that. And secondarily, the issue of flags has come up before. Fifth Avenue is having a 200th anniversary, and the use of the American flag, albeit we have to figure that out. But I think we should pursue that moving forward, with regards to the use of the American flag and other flags in front of it, not just the brand itself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that wasn't a question.
Yeah.
I can make that up.
Don't you agree?
Yes, don't you? Don't you agree? Do you think your client would agree?
Change the punctuation.
Yeah, obviously. Anyway,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Does that get communicated to the client if there's like some sort of anniversary coming up and the community board sends a letter or something like that to the owners?
The Fifth Avenue Association
Yeah.
should be in touch with your client once they move in.
Okay.
I often feel that Fifth Avenue should be here. These things so often come. Anyway, that's nothing to you, James, sorry, but
Okay.
I should be here.
Okay. I did find a domed photo. It's a Citibank, and I'm not sure which building this is, but it also looks like a fairly of the same time period building.
That is
Thank you. Tony.
Can you comment on the length of the lease that your client's taking? Can
I'm sorry?
you comment on the length of the lease that your client is taking?
I'm not aware of that, actually. I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know the answer to that, but that's a good question. I mean, it's definitely longer than, like, say, 5 years.
It wasn't a purchase?
It's not no, they're leasing.
Okay, thank you.
Is that something you'll be able to get to us in advance of the full board meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And then similarly, in that same vein, you had said that there's going to be a lighting mock-up done. Is that something you anticipate before the full board meeting on April 11th?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be able to give us kind of the information or the photographs that come out of that?
We will do. We will do so, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, I will then open it up to members of the public. Members of the public, are there any questions? Let's use the raise hand function.
Come on, now.
Seeing none. All right. We will now move to business session. Reminder, business session, only members of the committee are permitted to speak. All right, Barbara.
Yeah, I find the awnings very jarring on this facade. I think part of it is the color. And I'd almost want to see a more sensitive to the historic nature of the building, a different color. Maybe the branding can go elsewhere. I don't know if they would be amenable to that, but the shape just seems very, I would much rather see what Versace had, because it's very similar to what Cartier has. And to me, it seems much more in keeping with the streetscape of that area of Fifth Avenue. I mean, that's my own feeling. It just seems kind of jarring, and I think it works against this beautiful building. It seems like a lot of signage, but if Versace had it there, I'm not sure that, I don't know if we can object to the amount of it, but I think it does, I think that the way you put it was correct. It feels over branded for the building, and it does a disservice to the historic nature, and that's what we're here to really discuss.
I agree with you, Barbara, and I agree with you agreeing with me. No, I'm kidding. But
I agree with her agreeing with you.
Exactly, no, but I just want to say that we have so much, we have so little left. I know this came up last week, but there's so much little, or last month, whenever, but with regards to what remains on Fifth Avenue, we have lost so many of our buildings, and so these kind of situations become that much more important. I think that the lighting does seem to be fun and well done, and that almost gives me more reason to want to say that, therefore, on balance, the elegance of this building and caretaking the elegance of this brand or whatever cannot be, this brand is not Versace. And Versace had a completely different reputation by logo and design, by color, and by range of product. And so this is sort of one product, one color. It's a very different thing. And I would challenge them to embrace this through the lens of what this building means to Fifth Avenue and what this building means next to Cartier, and embrace the brand accordingly. That would be my comment.
So,
I would like to give Peter a chance.
I would agree with Barbara, with Suzanne, with Zool. The awnings, domed awnings and an arched window makes sense, but these seem sort of ersatz and forced. So it looks like they're sort of trying to gussy up something that shouldn't be gussied up. And because of the shape of them, it really makes the branding on them much more aggressive and much more in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And even the red awnings with Versace name.
That's a good word, Peter. The dome shape is ersatz. And really, if we can encourage much more subtlety here, so it's a light color, the shape, it's consistent what was there with Versace and what's there next door. And maybe you don't need the logo on every awning. Such.
I wanted to express that I think the lighting is really cool. I think that it accentuates the historic nature of the building at night. And so I'm especially excited about the proposal for the lighting. I don't personally have a problem with the awnings or the branding, but I hear other folks on the committee, and I think that makes sense. The perspectives that have been shared.
how do we feel, just so we don't lose track, but also the signage at the ground floor, their thoughts?
So what do I,
The signage at the ground floor,
on the show windows?
yeah, what we're seeing here. Tony,
Oh,
you got- on anything, but
Well, sticking to that,
Okay.
that doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me either.
It doesn't bother me as long as it's not on every awning and the flag and
Yeah, again, it's the over branding.
It's the over branding.
Can I just, as a follow-up to Sachi's comment, I am a little concerned, but they are doing a mock-up, so I think there is concern on the part of the architects as well with the potential of that LED strip on the balustrade. And so that's the only caveat I have to the lighting, which is we want it to be as invisible as possible. Again, it's about the integrity of the building.
And then just sticking with lighting, if we could, and there should be a mock-up before our meeting, it sounds like. But also, just in our reso, making sure that the flange indicator that he mentioned, that would be the same color as the marble, is actually put up there. That would be a very important component. You know, lighting, sometimes we've seen lighting out of control, because I agree, I love lighting on historic buildings, I love to see them, but sometimes they're so bright or they're the wrong temperature. And I would just ask the applicant to make sure they're very conscious of what they're doing in those respects too, because it's a very boutique building. You know, it's not supposed to be glaring along Fifth Avenue. But going back to the awnings, you know, the building itself, it's that neoclassical design, it's a lot of straight lines. The shape of the awnings themselves just does not go with the overall design of the building. Had they been on the first floor with arched windows, right, that would seem to make a little bit more sense, and including the example that he found, and I saw earlier as well, they're on arched bays, it just makes more sense. Regarding, so that's shape, and I agree with what people have said about the color. It's an interesting color, you know, and I don't know if it clashes with the marble or what the word is, but it's interesting. Going back to signage, I think it's signage overload. I do have concerns about the pin mounted letters in the middle. That's why I asked about term of the lease, because, you know, these are revolving doors of tenants. You don't want new pinholes.
But, you know, he did say that it was in a previously installed location.
And I agree, but if this keeps going on and on, it's just gonna have patchwork, right, for all the old signage, all the old pins and all that, so that's a concern. You know, Cartier next door, they have signage on their awnings only on the retail level. And you see it's a bright red, I mean, it sticks out, I mean, it's Cartier, right, they wanna stick out, but it's not overloaded with their logo. And the Harry Winston that we saw last month, they have their logo, the HW, and again, another very bold color against white marble, but it just seemed to work. So the signage, I would love if they cut down on the other awnings going up, because there's a lot of signage here. And then the shape, again, looking what's up and down Fifth Avenue, it's that very traditional, what's there already kind of shape, which we see next door, we see on the other boutique buildings. And I think it does the style of that building much more justice.
So I think we're kind of seeing where this is going, but Kevin, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, just a comment. In terms of the awnings, you know, if, you know, as a man, I guess I didn't initially appreciate the suggestiveness of the shape of the awnings and the brand. And if they're in any way inappropriate, I would echo previous comments that they should be redesigned, perhaps to, you know, echo the same kind of angular nature of the Cartier awnings. But I think, you know, aside from that, it also needs to be said that there is an article in Crain's New York over the weekend about this particular property that they Skims rented this location at a rental rate approximately 75% less than what Versace rented it at. And so there is some kind of business consideration, I think, that we should allow. I'm just offering that as a data point. It's not in our purview, but I just think we should be made aware of that and keep that in the back of your mind. Barbara?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think my objection to the the awnings are because they're suggestive. I just think it really works.
I'm honestly asking. I'm not.
I'm just saying for myself, it really works against the architecture. I would say as pretty much a lifelong New Yorker, I also think a light color, you know, in a dirty city with like birds flying around, those things are gonna look pretty crappy pretty quickly. But I think there is a dignity that the building has that I think that this treatment really takes away. And I think that that's an important consideration.
So I think we're,
Because Lower Fifth Avenue looks like crap and you don't want Upper Fifth Avenue to look like crap. Right,
so I think we're coming to a kind of a consensus that generally speaking, we think this building has perhaps a bit too much branding. I think we're focusing mainly on the awnings, the shape of them, the branding on them, the color of them. Sounds like there are no concerns about the ground floor signage. There are no concerns about the lighting. I missed any sort of.
No, I
Except
think that
for
there's
the.
We want the
visible-
mock-up.
the
yes,
mock-up, yeah,
Right.
the lighting. And then also just sort of what Tony said, regardless of what Crane has to say, this goes back to Winston or whatever. Yes, we care about New York continuing to succeed, but this is not a real estate conversation. And we have a standard, and there's some standards that have been established by Cartier and some of the buildings, and this is a chance to try to maintain that standard.
So how do we feel about a denial unless the modification, or are we thinking an approve with conditions?
Denial
I-
unless.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to deny unless reconsider the dome shape of the awnings,
Color.
the color. Well, we like the light colors, though.
No, I don't.
We don't? Okay, so other color?
Consideration.
Okay, and also, sorry, Mark,
It's more than reconsideration. We want them to change it.
change the dome
Yeah.
shape, yeah.
We want them to change the design.
The dome shape, the color, and the actual.
And
The amount
The
of.
amount
and
of,
the amount of signage, yeah,
the amount of
branding.
sun.
And this is in the spirit of them doing well. We want them to succeed.
Yeah.
Triangles also with
Yeah,
those
I mean,
items.
we want them
Can I
to
just
see a big
understand
success.
why we don't want that dome shape and why we want this slice?
Because it's trying,
We
it's
had
trying
that
to make the building something it's not. It's trying to make the building, a building with arches all the way up. The arches are only on the
On the
ground
ground
floor
floor.
architecturally.
So that's not a plus, that's a negative.
It's ersatz, it's a negative.
It was, they're trying to, the idea was to carry the arches upstairs.
Yeah.
I can see why you would do that, but it's fighting what is the actual architecture.
And where Suzanne was going and what we're promoting is the elegance of the building, which is to their benefit in terms of.
I think we all agree on that,
Yeah,
so let's get the motion.
So the motion is to deny, based on, we want a new, design and shape, color, much less, branding. And, we want the, lighting mock-up before the meeting. Is there anything I've missed?
Don't know if they're gonna get the
Well,
lighting back.
I think we're,
I've got a question about the state, about the color. Isn't that their logo color?
It is.
It is a logo color. They might have others. We don't, I mean, I
But
personally
that's
don't
what I
know.
was gonna get to. Are there others? Because are we suggesting a company ignore its logo color? I mean, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
There's a lot of branding and part of the branding was the color, but it may be because of the shape that I'm responding to it. If I saw it,
More shape than color.
well, I think they should be I think they might consider it. It's not a very historic.
Right, but I'm
color.
saying if it's if it's the color of the company.
Does
It
not.
would be like asking Cartier to switch there
Yeah.
to,
I think
The
John's
green.
got a good point here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the branding of it, I
Yeah.
would guess, and thanks for picking that up. You know, it looks great, it's navy against khaki.
All right, so we're not in the business of picking colors for them. So do we want to
No, but just.
soften the color portion of this in
Yeah.
the resolution so that is a reconsideration, or is
Because
that?
I think John's point is very well taken. I mean,
Yeah.
this is their brand color, so let's give them that.
No,
It's
But
not
not-
their brand color.
It's not the brand color?
no.
It's
What-
white,
what-
they're white, their brand is white. It's
And white and what?
white and nothing.
You know what?
I mean, it's not on
I'm
the,
sorry, I don't think we should. I think it's, they can come back to landmarks. I don't think, I disagree with
Well, I have-
giving them the
I
color.
have a question. What's the problem with the color?
I just think it is not an historic color. It seems to work, at least from the rendering. It is just not a very, historically compatible.
The
Look.
Saatchi color is light.
Is it the problem that it's a
A flesh color?
skin tone? Yeah,
Well, it's only a flesh color for
Some of us.
people,
for some of us.
yeah.
Well, I think the other obvious thing, like this company is owned by Kim Kardashian
Yeah.
and the,
Yes.
you know, the whole thing is very suggestive.
Yes, and
Like, I
yes,
think
check.
it's obvious, it's, like, if that's the problem, like, I'm fine with that being the problem, but I think we should.
But let's come up with a motion to deny that doesn't have to make them come back again. Let's give them something so we can get.
I think they have to. We deny,
Well,
right?
we deny unless, and I mean, LBC comes to us, and if the LBC denies them, they would have to come back to us again if they want
Yeah, but
something else, but
LBC
that's not how.
Yeah,
We just
obviously
offer-
can ignore, but we should go on the record of what we really, we're not horse trading here. We should go on the record for what we think is important.
Right.
I mean, it's, you know, this isn't a negotiation. You know, we should stand and,
So give us the motion.
okay, a motion to deny unless the applicant comes with a redesigned awning, including the shape, the color, and the amount of overall branding of the building.
Right,
Second,
that-
I could second that.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that honors the
Just
historic.
from a procedural point, since we'll start the motion.
It wasn't
can you,
seconded.
Like adopt it, or?
I mean,
Because
Friendly
I don't
amendment.
want there to be like two motions.
well, his wasn't seconded, so there was
Right,
only one
okay.
motion, so.
We were trying to get the language
So
right.
I know nothing about Robert's rules of order.
I don't either. Okay.
So
Yeah,
we have the one motion seconded, we can take it to a vote now.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'll go in reverse this time. So Tony,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barbara,
yes,
Suzanne,
Yes.
and then Laura, is she?
Laura we lost her again.
Okay. Zool,
Yes.
Sashi,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
me is yes, John,
Yes.
Gerard.
Yes.
And then Kevin,
Yes.
and then Brad.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
All right.
Pretty unanimous,
Lovely. All right. So, as a reminder, the next full board meeting is scheduled for April 11th. Applicants are not required to attend that, though you are more than welcome to. Is there any new business for the committee?
Yeah.
So,
Just, and we don't need to get into this tonight at all, but just, it could be a future meeting. We've gotten to a point where we're going to have a social event of the whole board. That's coming down the pipe. That's going from Nick to some here. Some of us are involved with that. But we're also talking about visioning events for each and every committee. So just putting that out, that'll be for you, Brad, and Mark to set an agenda for. But the idea would be, it would be part social, but also a visioning event with the idea of what are we thinking the city might look like specific to this committee or the other committees in the next year, 5 years, so forth.
Can arts public members attend that?
I would hope so.
I would hope so.
all right. Unless there's any other new business. That concludes this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
For our new chair and vice chair.
yes, well done.
Bradford.
Thank you.